How about the third time? Welcome to C++ with Miyoshi. I want to talk a little bit about files today and input and output with files. So when we've done programs so far, what we've done is we have merely gotten our input from the keyboard and our output has been on the computer screen, or our monitor. And so we think of those guys, we can think of them as streams, and our input stream has been the keyboard and our output stream has been the monitor. Well, you can do the same kind of thing with files. You can have an input stream and an output stream. Our output stream would be a file that we write to. An input stream would be a input file stream would be a file that we get data from. So here's I have a input.txt is going to be my input data stream or input file stream, and my output.txt is going to be my output file stream. And all I'm doing is I'm writing them to the file or getting data from the file, reading from the file. And rarely will you have files that take up one contiguous space on your disk, but you know, it could happen. So I'm going to show you today a quick program. All it does is reads from a file and writes to a file. So it reads from an input file and writes to an output file. So here's the code. And I'm going to have to include my F stream now. So we do pound include F stream. And then I'm going to have my int main, just like always. And I have my IF stream. And if you think of this as IF stream or input file stream, that's the easiest way to read this guy, IF stream or input file stream. And I'm just going to declare it just like I do any other variable. And as you know, you have to declare variables. They have to have a character or an underscore in front of them. They can't start with a number, but they can have letters and numbers and underscores in the name. Okay, so I have IF stream in, and then I have OF stream. OF stream, of course, is output file stream, and I have out. Now, I could declare my input file stream just like I do with my output file stream, but I'm just going to do this in two steps. So my output file stream, I'll declare it right away, and I'll do double quotes around my output file, which is output.txt. Okay, and you can see that's what I have over here. That's where I'm going to write to the file. Okay, and then I do a little bit more with the input file, because the output file, if it exists on the disk already, it's going to overwrite it. So if you have a file called output.txt and it lives there already on your disk, it will be overwritten by this command right here. Okay, with the input file, I do an in.open, and I can do an out.open as well, but I do that in one time because you know, it's a little bit quicker. But I do the input a little bit different. I do in.open, and then I have open parentheses, double quote, input.txt in double quotes again, and that guy opens up the file. What it does is it looks to see if the file is there, and if it does, it opens it up. Now, this little section of code right here, the if not in dot is open, that does just what you think. If the file did not open with this open command, then it's going to say, hey, sorry, the file wasn't found. It's going to return 0 since it's the main. It's going to return back to the operating system and say, hey, sorry, things did not work out. You don't get to run the rest of your program because the input file wasn't there. So if my input file was not on the disk, this would give me this printf, say, hey, sorry, it doesn't work. Okay, but let's assume that it does. Let's assume that disk is or that file is on the disk. Then what we're going to do, I'm going to declare a string called temp, and all this is going to do is going to take one line at a time, which is what the while does. So I do while get line open parentheses in comma temp. That will get from the normally we've had the cin when we do get line. Well, we changed that to just an in, and now we put a temp there. The temp is my string. So it's going to get the first line of the file. It'll bring it in, and then all it does is it outputs it to the output file. And notice that if you've been using couts, cout looks exactly like this out. There, we're just replacing the cout with the out, or getting rid of the C if you will. And then I'm doing the output operator, the line that I just read, and then a new line. Now, if you haven't been using couts lots, you might not recognize this E and L. That stands for end line. And it's interesting because if you do double quote or single quote, backslash n, single quote or double quote, whichever you use, It's the same number of characters as endl, so you don't save any character strokes or keystrokes by doing endl versus double quote, backslash, and double quote. So anyway, this does output to the file, and this does output to the screen. And all it does is it just copies line for line from one file to the next. So on my disk, I'd be taking one line from this input and sticking it in one line of my output. And I would just go one line at a time until it's finished. Then once I'm done, this while will then be not true anymore. So then it'll drop out, and then it'll do out.close. Out.close closes the file just like you expect, and in.close closes the file just like you expect. Then it returns back 0 to the operating system and says, hey, everything is hunky-dory. So this is very simple code, but it does a lot of things, right? It opens up a file stream and says, hey, if I use this in, where I would normally use cins, or where I would normally do some inputs, then I'm going to be getting data from the file. If I use this output file stream out, normally where I do output stuff, it's going to output to that file instead of to the screen. So I have replaced my screen with a file. I have replaced my keyboard with a file. And it's a nice way to do business. It's a nice way to do some really great things instead of just getting stuff from the keyboard, getting things from a file. So that's just a quick introduction, a quick file that you can use, and you can put this code in and it will copy one file to the next as long as this input file exists, and you can make that with the text editor. Just put it in the right spot according to where your compiler says to put it, and go about your merry way and have some fun with file input and output. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on C++ with Miyoshi.